Hi, buddy. Paul, hope you're having a really good day. Welcome to the second bonus session of Boot Camp. Really glad to say that we've managed to grab Craig, Val, and Anthony from the Valpal Network. How are you guys? You good?
Very well, thank you.
All good, thanks, Paul.
Brilliant.
Very well.
I appreciate you taking time out of your busy
Glad to be here.
Absolutely.
Today we're going to be talking about nurturing leads, and also Craig and Anthony are going to discuss a few things that agents are probably doing or not doing with their nurturing and lead generation, which is probably leaving a lot of money on the table. So Craig, let's hand it over to you with that. What's the common problem you're seeing?
Yeah, well, one of the things that we want to sort of talk about here that we see quite often, and I know we have lots of conversations about, is the amount of wastage, really, of leads, the amount of opportunities that are left on the table because processes aren't in place. And we know that, realistically, if you think about what you guys are doing, how important lead generation is, and how much money, time and effort you put into generating those leads, it's then making sure that you're not just literally giving it one go, but you have a plan in place. Because one of the things that we find with a lot of agents, especially the problem becomes bigger the bigger the agency becomes, because it's not the business owner that's making the calls and who's actually also paying for the way that the lead was generated. But it's so if you start recruiting sales negotiators and they're making the calls, they're busy. It's a busy offices, and what happens is if they get a yes, so if the client says, yes, I am ready to move, ready to sell, ready to let, whatever it might be, they'll process them really well, right? Because that's what we guys do. But if they get a no or a not ready or whatever it may be, anything but a yes, it's what do you do next? Because what we find is that a lot of people, a lot of agencies assume that that someone that doesn't say yes is a no, but realistically, most of the time it's not. Most of the time it's a not today. It can be that the we'll talk about this in a minute, but the way that the initial question is framed can be better, right? Can be lots of different reasons, but we don't want to leave I reckon about 85% of your opportunities are left on the table, and 15% of them are processed well, and it's quite significant, that number, really.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think one of the things I think everyone's got to be aware of is, and it's the same problem that we had in our family business, is that we expected everyone who's been generated as a lead on Facebook or social media to be ready straight away. But in fact, we found probably that sort of 10-15% was looking to do something straight away. And then we had a problem, because obviously up to 80-85% probably looking to do something later on. And for us, it was two big issues. And we had a chat about this a couple of years ago, was time. We can call them first of all, but to call everyone else later on was an issue. And knowing when to call them as well later on. So if you're generating those leads, when to call them. And I think that is what lead generation generates on social media and from other directions, is that you've got those people who are taking decisions straight away, which would be a small amount. Then you've probably got two other categories, which is medium decision makers who are weeks or months away, and then there's the long-term people in that as well, and that's what we talked about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think right off the bat, one of the things to always remember, and it's about optimizing your opportunities the best way you possibly can, right? And one of those things is to make sure you're asking the right questions. So when the lead comes in, you're not too salesy with it. Remember that Facebook, especially Facebook ad campaigns, these are people that are dipping their toe in the water probably for the first time. So they need to be approached in that way. You need to say things like, what prompted you to use the valuation tool, or what prompted, whatever the inquiry, however you've generated that lead, what motivated them to do that action, rather than, are you thinking of selling or letting your property? And you'll get a much more honest answer from it. That's what I think.
Do you think You think that's a big problem with dealing with the leads, that in agencies a lot of the staff just aren't trained to deal with that type of lead, because often they're dealing with those sort of right move leads or people who walk through the door every day?
Yeah, I think that's important, Paul. Is also not just for the business, because the business created a lot of the time. It's the business owner that's making the decisions, has decided to sign up to whichever service it is. But ultimately, it's whoever's on the front line in that agency, not just knowing where the leaders come from, but also understand their journey too, because they have to understand these are the people that they haven't come to the agent, if that makes sense. They're going out and finding them. They're engaging with them on Facebook, for example, in this instance. So it's really important knowing the best way how to handle each different type of lead, because it is really important that as Craig said, that what we find that first question is vital, because it just opens up that conversation, and then for the negotiator to just be able to find out so much important information from that first question.
Just to go on from that, Paul, you mentioned about the training. It's a really interesting point. Now, I was talking to another agent earlier, not earlier today, but yesterday, and we were talking about this about what to do next year, right? And I think there is an internal training process that needs to be adopted for anyone that's joined the industry over the last 18 to 24 months, right? Because let's face it, it's not been, it's going to be tougher next year, right, than it's been for the last couple of years. So it needs to be, anyone that's a seasoned professional in this industry knows that we go through these peaks and troughs, and we have purple periods where it's easier to sell a property that we've instructed. But next year is going to be tougher. So it is about the internal training of that, whoever it is that's picking the phone up, that neck, and not just assuming that they know what to say, but actually listening to what they're saying and imparting that knowledge, and just say, look, don't do this, I'll say this, because you'll get a better response. And it seems such a simple thing, Are you thinking about selling your property? Don't say that. Say what motivated you to make the inquiry. Just try it and see what difference you get, and you'll be astounded the difference you get. One opens up, one closes down, and it's as simple as that. It really is.
Yeah, I think in the last couple of years, the source of lead generation for estate agencies has changed hugely. It was right move, super, people walking through the doors all the time, but now obviously a big proportion is coming from sources where those people are much earlier in the journey. And I know, Anthony, speaking to you, you shared some stats about your obviously online valuation tool side, that can be months away, can't it, with those people?
Yeah, for was speaking to a member the other day, and because what we've always found, or probably up to a few years ago before we got to this point, was we'd always review our members' leads and go, Mr. Agent over there, he's generated 200 leads this month. Great, they must be getting amazing results, or 100 leads, 50 leads, etc. But actually, when we dug a bit deeper, was actually only found only X% are converting. And then when you dig a bit deeper, it's then finding out that follow-up process is there's just not a long enough follow-up process set in place, whether that's manual, automated, whatever system it is they're using for those leads. Because when you find, if a lot of the time those leads will be generated from sources like social media, Facebook, etc., so they are earlier in their journey. So just calling twice, sending one email isn't enough, because a lot of the time if they don't respond, they'll just get thrown in the bin. So there needs to be that process, as I said, whether it's manual, whether it's automated, however the agent does that. That's really, really important. Because also what you have to bear in mind is it's as you've probably, a lot of your members have experienced, Paul, and it's quite easy to generate a good volume of leads, whether it's 50 to 100 a month, but within 3 to 6 months, that's you can't manage that. For the team, with all the other jobs that they have to do daily, we've mentioned Rightmove there, etc., viewings, valuations, it just becomes impossible for whether it's one person or a team to manage that manually.
That is a really good point, and that's the problem that we often see, is that you can generate hundreds of leads each month, but then there is that problem of time to go back over the leads, you know. So I think, Craig, you spoke to me about this before. You feel that sometimes that causes a problem in the office where people start cherry picking the leads.
Yeah,
as well.
100%. And it's like, you know, you think, if you look at you got to try and put yourself in the position of the different people, right? The business owner is trying to feed the sales negotiator with as many leads as he possibly can, because he looks at the equation, leads equals new business, right? Which obviously it does. The sales negotiator is going to want to take the cream off the top, right? Because he's got a million other things to do. So he's asking a question, finding out whether they're interested. And if they're interested, he'll deal with them. If they're not interested, he's thinking, right, well, I haven't got time to make, you know, 5 phone calls over the next 2 months and keep in front of this person. I've got to get on to the next thing, right? So he literally turns around and says, yeah, chuck it in the bin. And sometimes that lead doesn't even get put into the CRM system. The boss will turn around and go, what was that lead like? Oh, the lead was rubbish. Now, we know we actually can get, because there's plenty of stats out there now, not plenty of ability. We know that 20, you know, like how many leads go to waste, right? Because we can see that. So it's really important that we make sure that an agency knows what's going on with those leads and has a process in place. And that we spoke about this several years ago, Paul. It was like sort of your family agency that sort of first sparked this thought process, and we decided to do something about it, and then, didn't we?
Yeah, no, we did. And I think you know, one thing to do here is to make it clear to everyone what the solution was, you know, that problem that we had.
Yeah.
So you know, we've talked about all these issues with lead generating, and you know, there are systems that you can put in place to obviously help. And one of the things is speed to lead. You know, we know that from data that the longer you leave a phone call or a conversation with a lead that's come through on Facebook or social media, the chance of you converting that lead drops hugely. Yeah. So, you know, the system which obviously you guys created from our initial conversation, which is a fantastic system and covers all this, is obviously a text messages going out straight away and emails going out straight away. So as soon as a lead comes in, an agent's got to be making sure that if they can't pick that phone up in the next 5 minutes, which most can't, because obviously they're out multitasking and doing viewings and whatever, they've got to have something that's connecting with those people, text message, email straight away. And then obviously following that, it's a case of being able to know when to get back to that lead. And we had that conversation, and MovePal again as a product does that, but you need to have a system in place that's going to alert you when that client is ready to talk, because that could be so much later on. So they're the sort of things. But one of the other things that I think we haven't talked about is content. You know, content for really pretty much reframing people into seeing you as the ideal solution, and the content that goes out during that period of nurture is really important, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's the really important part, because let's say an online valuation lead is generated today, and they're not ready, which we know a big percentage of them aren't. If all the agent is just bombarding them with is, hey, sell your house, use us, we're the best agent, get a valuation, etc., that they're not ready for that. So they'll just probably wind them up, and B, if there is via emails or text message, that they're just going to unsubscribe. So they're going to lose that opportunity for when they're ready. So the really important thing is remembering again where they are in that journey. They're not ready. So they're not ready for evaluation. So switch that sort of content, that position. So now say, okay, now let's help this homeowner to get from where they are today to when they are ready. So that when they are ready, it's that agent that they think of, because that agent has helped them along that journey. It's helped them with helpful information, maybe tips on the local market, how to sell for the best price, etc., just helpful information to position that agent in the right sort of frame.
It's giving them that added value, isn't it? Rather than coming perceived as salesman. It's like, that as an agent that this client is going to go on a journey. So help them along that journey, but learn something along the way yourself, right? And how do we do that? Well, what we know with the way that, let's take an email for an example. It's unrealistic to expect, if you sent out 1,000 emails to 1,000 prospects, the amount of replies that you would get would be minuscule. And there's a reason for that, right? There's a reason for that. And that is because realistically, people do not reply to emails unless they're already part of the transaction. And what I mean by that is, if you've been out and done a valuation with someone and given them a proposal, they may reply to that because they're already kind of in the transaction. But prior to that, not a chance, or very few. But they'll click. And think about your own personal journeys when you're looking to buy something or you're interested in something. You'll click to gain more knowledge, to find out more, to view something, whatever it might be. But you won't reply to it because you're not ready at that point. But you will reply quite often to an SMS message, because we have a different concept, thought process to that. So what we've done with MovePal is we've written the journeys, by the way, right? So you don't have to sit and think about the journeys. It's all off the shelf. A year's worth of content for both sales and for lettings. It's all done. You can change it, you can adapt it, tweak it as ever you want, but off the shelf, it's all ready for you. But then when someone does download that bit of content, that added value, they get something of real value to help them. That's all branded for the agent. But at the same time, the agent gets knowledge. And what that knowledge is MovePal will send them a notification to say, this client has just performed this action, downloaded this guide. We also have an app. So you mentioned before that a lot of the times people are out and about, doing viewings, doing valuations, right? So your app will push a notification to you so you can see it. And if you think, oh, actually, this is a really hot lead in an area that I'm really targeting, you can quickly call that person and just say, I see you downloaded this guide. How can I help? What's changed since the last time we spoke to you? And take it from there. But you're talking to those people at the right time when they're showing interest. And that's the thing. If you think about, it's not just new clients, by the way. We can do this with your existing database, right? And that's, as we go into next year as well, it's going to be more and more important with that, not just focusing on new business, which is very important, but looking at the whole of your sales funnel and making sure that you're targeting different points of that sales funnel, right? So Facebook ad campaigns at the top, but you already sat on a huge amount of data, right? All the people that you've spoken to, clients, previous clients and prospects, you've got that data, you own that data. So why not drip them into this nurture? And then when, as we said earlier, it's unrealistic to expect you to be able to keep in contact with 500 people, let alone 5,000 people, right? But what you can is you can realistically keep in contact with the most, the top 25 to 50 people that are engaging with you. That is doable, and the other people aren't ready for you yet. Something's not quite triggered them. Focus on the people that are most likely to be your next client based on their behavioral patterns. There is science behind it. It's logic. It's not guesswork, and that's what makes the kind of difference, really.
Yeah, I think there's some really good points there. And I think if anyone on the boot camp, what you need to understand is that you will be generating lots of leads. Some won't be ready straight away, but in that group of leads that you've got, or even your data you've got, there's always going to be a few people that are just about to be ready, and you've got to have a system in place to identify that. And that might be putting out the odd campaigns or messages to your leads and seeing who raises their hands. As simple as that, but you need to be doing that. You talked about the content there, and I think a question there is that Personalized content, I think, is something which often agents get wrong, and they perhaps putting out content that just looks too salesy, and straight away when it hits people's inbox, people are looking for those adverts and those ones that are going to be ignored. What I like about the content you're putting out is that it is very personalized, and that has helped agents, hasn't it? On talking to possible leads, and the lead being a bit warmer. Anthony, I think that was something you mentioned to me the other day.
Yes, yeah, we've had, as you touched on there, the more personalised it can be, the better, and that's the beauty of the system. Is although it's automated, it's personalised, because all of the contents, let's say for your MovePal, for example, Paul, so say for example it was coming from yourself, it would come directly from your name, your email address, it would have your email signature, so it would mirror exactly as if you just sent me an email. So that's the beauty of it. It's, in essence, the way a lot of our members see it is it's an extra team member that's working in the background for them without them having to do anything. But then at the same time, it's building that relationship. And actually what a lot of our members find is when they are following up leads, let's say they might not have managed to speak to the lead straight away, and they're then following up a few weeks or a month later. Over that time, that consumer would have had a few touch points directly from you. And they feel that they already know you, because where it's coming directly from you, it's not a generic marketing email. As you said, it's personal emails, it's personal text messages. So what a lot of our members feel is it definitely makes the calls an easier in when they're going into that call. That they feel that, and some of them, they actually believe that they have actually had conversations with them. We actually had an agent say that to us on Friday, didn't they, Craig? Because we used MovePal to promote it to agents, for example. So there might be some people on here that might have a few messages from us, but it's exactly the same scenario. So that they think that you're helping them, you're being friendly, you're being helpful, but actually it's a system. You're just working smarter, and the system's doing it for you.
Automation,
but then the next part is the most important part. Is, as you said, it's knowing the right time. Is sometimes it might take one email and they might engage with that first email, but sometimes it might take a year. But the most important thing is, no matter how long it takes, as soon as that person is doing something, it's notifying the agent, it's notifying whoever they want it to go to at that right time, so they know instantly what the right time to get back in touch, they know who to call and when to call them.
Do you know when most of those leads tend to engage back with people or with agents? Do you have any data on that at all?
Yeah, we do. Generally, it's out of hours, right? So the vast majority of the leads will come into you outside of working hours. So again, having some form of process. I mean, the speed to lead side of this is vital, right? It's vital. So it's unrealistic though. if I'm doing an online inquiry for something at 9 o'clock at night, I don't expect my phone to ring, and I might not even welcome my phone to ring. But if I'm doing it at 4 o'clock, I would, right? But if I did one at 9 o'clock at night and something hit my inbox, and a minute later, and I got a text message, 10 minutes after that, I think that's great service. Because what you've also got to remember, and I have this conversation with a number of agents, we always bang on about speed to lead. Why? Because we know statistically, the longer you leave a lead, the less chance you've got of converting it. And that's not just in our industry, that is sales, period, right? So we always bang on about that. And we've got some agents that question it with us and say, well, I don't feel right about getting on the phone to somebody at the same time that they're still looking at the valuation, the online valuation. And one of the things I always say to them is remember, when you're talking to a homeowner, you're going to be doing a service for them. You're not actually selling them a product. You're selling their house. You're selling them a service to sell their house. So if you take 4 hours to reply to their message when they're looking to sell their property, that is what they're going to think you're going to do to someone that's interested in buying their house. But if you respond immediately or very quickly, then they get a good feeling. And even if they say, blimey, you was quick, you can work with it. So that's the kind of service we will give to you, Mr. Homeowner, when we're listing your property, right? So it is so important. that speed to leads, regardless of where it is.
I heard that we see and hear 50,000 adverts a day online and offline. That's
wow.
So if, like you say, if you are looking at something last night, what's the chance of you remembering tomorrow what you looked at on Facebook? So it is so important. The research is there. It literally after 5 minutes, it's dropping hugely. So I get that. The other thing, which obviously is important, is that I think it's about 11 to 13 now before someone will actually consider using a service or an agent. So having those text messages and emails going out straight away, and then obviously ongoing over that period of time is vital because they're all touch points to get that. So I think some really good points there. Okay, so we've identified the issues, we've identified the possible solutions, and talked about that. What about, Craig? Obviously you deal with a lot of agents, you speak to a lot of agents who generate leads, and they're probably looking after these in different ways in their office, with maybe one team member or everyone dealing with the leads, or perhaps a different way. How does that look? What seems to work well, or what doesn't work well in your eyes?
Yeah, it's a really good question, this, and I think we've something that we've learned quite a lot over the last couple of years since we've had MovePal, because we've been able to. It's very transparent and it's very easy for us to see because all the leads are in one place. So when we're checking in with our clients, we can actually see who's been dealing with the inbound leads and who hasn't. And one of the things that I would say when I'm talking to a business owner is, without doubt, the best the best results have been seen where the fewest amount of people are responsible for actually making that initial call. So depending on the size of your business, right? So if you are if you're one office, try and dedicate one person, right, to doing this. If you are 4 or 5 branches, then try and get two people kind of in like a call center environment, that kind of thing. There's a number of reasons that we believe this works well. Firstly, if you have multiple people and you bring in something new, right, it can be the best thing in the world. It can be the shiniest toy, but you're never going to get buy-in from everybody on that product. It's just unrealistic that you're always going to get some resistance. Whereas if you had one person that really took it on and goes, yeah, I really get this, I really like this, we can help to train that one person to a much higher standard. And then they'll be really, and they've got us always for reference and to ask for additional help. But that one person gets really under the skin of it, and they're on it, and they understand, and their calls get refined and their pitches get refined, and it just works so much better than if you do. And the same applies if you scale that up, right? Even one of the nationals, right? There's one of our biggest clients, a big national company, merged with another big national company. You can probably work out who that is. But one side of the business have a call center. The other side of the business, the branches dealt with all of the leads, right? And significantly, we looked at the differences in them. And the one with the call center get a higher rate of conversion because their team, that's all they do. They're not busy doing other things, right? They're not taking that lead, trying to take the cream off the top. What they're focused on is, I've got this, I'm in control of this data. The new lead comes in, I'm on it. Why? Because I get remunerated on getting that client, that homeowner, or getting my valuer through the front door talking to that person. So if you can do it, it's not always logistically possible, I get that. But if you can, you will see much better results if you do significantly, actually better results doing it that way than not.
That's excellent. Well, I've written down loads of things today, and just to highlight to everyone else who's watching some of the tips obviously being given. I think, first of all, the one that Craig just covered there, I think training and looking at the setup in your property business. So looking at, are your staff deal with these leads, or do they need a little bit more training on how to deal with these people that are going to come in through lead generation, through social media? They do need a different approach, a softer approach. So have a look at Are they aware of that? And then also the other things that we looked at was that, not everyone's going to be ready straight away. So you need that system that does have those the ability to tell you when someone is ready, tripwires and all different things in place there to alert you when they need to be called. Speed to lead, text messages and emails going out, and nurturing with the right content. Make sure you're putting content back out which is going to educate and provide tips. So loads there I've taken down. Craig, Anthony, if anyone perhaps just wants to chat with you either about the MovePal product or even just have a chat with you about lead nurturing, get some tips and what they're doing, can they get in touch with you?
Yeah. It's the easiest thing. If you just pop us an email at team@valpal.co.uk, or if you want to pop us a call, you can call us on 0208 663 4930.
Brilliant. What I'll do is I've got a slide which I'll put into the group with this video. So if anyone wants to reach out to you, they can. All your contact details will be on that. I really appreciate you sharing everything today with us and everyone in the group. And thank you very much for your time.
Always a pleasure.
Cheers, Paul. Thanks for having us on.
Thank you.